everyone, Rach here. Welcome to week number 7. This is one of the weeks that I've been really looking forward to producing for you because it's something that I have a very big interest in. And I'm going to speak a lot about how to look after the health of your digestive system or your gut, and also try and explain in as best detail as I can as to why it's actually so important that we consider the health of our digestive system. So just before I start this one, there is a bit of medical and sort of biochemistry terminology in this one. And I just want to let you know that by no means is this presentation or this part of your course prescribing any particular diet for you. It's literally just here as a source of information, so please don't change your diet and don't do anything radical with supplements or anything like that until you have had the confirmation of a doctor or spoken to a nutritional therapist about it. So just a quick disclaimer before we start. So what can we expect to learn this week? So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the gut and tell you, about the different parts of your gut and what each part does. That will take a bit of time. I'm going to explain about the role of the gut in physical and mental health, how to identify a dysfunctional gut. We're going to talk a bit about bacteria, why it's so important we understand the role of bacteria and what it has to do with your health. I'm also going to speak about the fact that your immune system is controlled by your gut, which is quite an interesting part. I'm going to give you some practical tips for improving the health of your gut. And also, don't forget that we have the bonus video interview with Jeanette Hyde, who is the author of book The Gut Makeover and is also a nutritional therapist based in London as well. So that's really cool. So the first thing we need to do is have a quick tour of the digestive system so that you know exactly what I'm talking about. So basically the digestive system is a tube that runs continuously from your mouth right down to your bum and is basically the major road that passes through your body. It is just in the sort of recent years, so like 2006 kind of onwards, it's just recently been acknowledged that your health is pretty much dependent on this road or your digestive system or your gut functioning optimally, and the impact that the journey of your food has on your health and well-being. So your gut starts in your mouth, and the first stage of digestion actually happens in the mouth. Your food is being broken down mechanically by your teeth, and that's why chewing your food is so vitally important. So let's just say that straight from the off, that your first part of your digestion, and possibly one of the most important parts of your digestive system, is chewing your food. So that's when you grind the food down into a pulp before you even swallow it. So before we even start, let's just go by saying that it's important that you chew your food properly. And if you have any problems with your digestive system, like bloating, upset stomach, then that is the first port of call. Make sure you're chewing your food properly. Chew it more, and chew it more. Digestion is also aided in your mouth by enzymes. So basically they act like scissors, like snapping the food into smaller bits so that it can be absorbed into the bloodstream further down your digestive system. And they are produced by the saliva in your mouth. So that's why it's so important that when you're cooking, that we should be cooking our food so that we get nice smells, which produces saliva, which helps to release the enzymes which start to break down your food in your mouth. So don't underestimate the importance of that. Then we have the esophagus, which is obviously the transport system from your mouth to your stomach. And it gets there by way of peristalsis and gravity. And and ends up in your stomach, which is that little pouch that is about the size of your fist. So once the food's actually been broken down by your teeth, mixed around in your saliva, and goes down the esophagus into the stomach, your stomach is pretty cool. It can stretch in size to accommodate the amount of food that you're eating, and it can get pretty big as well. It's quite a dynamic thing. It has a lot of stuff going on in it. It produces something called hydrochloric acid, and even more enzymes are produced in your stomach which work to sort of break down the food even more. So the food that you have already chewed and swallowed gets kind of churned around in your stomach, mixed in with all this hydrochloric acid and enzymes, and it's mashed up and pumped into the next chamber of your digestive system. So it's all very sexy. By this point, it should be sludge, like sludge. It's lovely. So it can take about 3.5 to 4.5 hours in your stomach to do that. So depending on what it is that you've eaten, it can take between 3.5 and 4.5 hours to do that and to move on. That's when your stomach is actually emptied and the food is emptied into the small intestine. That's when your body will start to release your hunger hormone, which is ghrelin, which increases your appetite, which will tell you that you're ready to eat again. So once the food has gone into the small intestine, and I use the word small intestine lightly because although it is compact, it is actually usually between about 6 and 7 meters long. So it's pretty long. It's not really that small. So once your food has actually entered your intestine, as long as you've chewed properly and the acid, your stomach's producing acid properly and enzymes, should be like sludgy now. And that sludge is actually called chyme, which I guess is a nicer name than sludge, so we'll call it chyme from now on. So at this point, your small intestine, you've got bile that comes into play here, and even more digestive enzymes join in to help break it down into even smaller particles. It takes about anything between 3.5 to 6 hours to pass through your small intestine, and this is where your small intestine is where the very, very most important part of the absorption of nutrients happen. So this is how all your fuel and the nutrients from your food get into your blood stream so that it can be transported around the body for use in whatever way it's going to be used. It's pushed through your small intestine by a process called peristalsis, which is like a series of automatic contractions that pushes the food along, or the chyme. It's not really food anymore. And the health of your small intestine is important because that will determine how much of the nutrients from your food that you actually absorb. The inside of your small intestine has lots and lots and lots of things called villi, which increase the surface area of the inside of your small intestine, so it gives you the opportunity to absorb as much of those nutrients as physically possible. So as you can imagine, your small intestine gets a lot of traffic, and it can get worn out. So that's where it's important that we eat healthy food and that you take the advice that I'm giving you now, because if your small intestine, if the microvilli in your small intestine get worn away, that's when you can start to get problems with absorbing the nutrients. So anything that is left over now goes into the large intestine. The large intestine can also be found being called your colon or your bowel, and that's basically the final stop for whatever's left. However, it might be last, but it is very, very significant in your overall health. Your large intestine is where the fibrous parts of the food that actually still exist. That's where it goes. It feeds billions of bacteria that's in your gut, and they need food. So that is absolutely vital. Your large intestine is also home to your gut microbiome. excuse my coughing, please. And your gut microbiome, basically your gut flora, your bacterial system, is actually now being recognised as an entire organ on its own. So that is where your digestion ends. Lots of studies going on into it at the moment since about 2008, and it's pretty significant. Lots and lots of stuff going on there. We also class your gut as being your second brain. It has its own nervous system, so your enteric nervous system actually links your gut with your brain via the vagus nerve, and the 80% of your immune system actually lives within your gut. So it's vital that we look after the health of your gut, because if your gut is unhealthy, then your body is unhealthy. So the main role of your gut, I think I've covered a lot of it already, but basically it's the connection with it's our connection with the outside world. So you're fully in control of everything that passes through your gut, which makes it quite simple and straightforward to look after the health of it, because you're in full control at all times. 80%, like I said, of your immune system lies in your gut, which means that if your gut is unhealthy and inflamed, then chances are your body is going to be unhealthy and inflamed, and you're going to open yourself up to being susceptible to a lot of viruses, illnesses picking things up, colds, flus, all that kind of stuff. Like I said before, it has its own nervous system, the enteric nervous system, so that's why there's a lot of research going on at the moment into the connection between your gut and your mental health. So we'll speak a little bit about that in the future in the next slides. It's also the producer of neurotransmitters that affect our emotions and feelings. So there is a connection there between our emotions, feelings, things like anxiety, depression, with the health of our gut. And it's where the absorption of all the nutrients that we eat from food is, and home to our gut microbiome as well, which I've touched on already. So I'm actually going to spend just a bit more time going over the large intestine with you, because that's where our gut microbiome lives. And it's actually a really, really important part of your digestive system. It's often forgotten about when we're teaching the digestive system. But it's getting a lot more recognition now because of the significant amount of research that's going into this thing called the Microbiome Project. And it's basically examining and identifying bacteria of healthy people so that we can see what it should look like in an ideal world. So our gut, our large intestine, is where the water absorbed and undigested fibres feed your gut bacteria. So that's why it's so important that we do eat a lot of fruit and vegetables, so that we have the fibre there to feed the gut bacteria. You've got about 1.5 to 2 kilograms of bacteria living in your large intestine. That is pretty impressive if you think about what 2 kilogram that actually weighs. Like if you think about holding 2 kilograms, that is a shitload of bacteria. Your gut bacteria ferment these indigestible fibres. So I'm talking about like fibrous vegetables and fruit. They ferment them into fatty acids. You don't need to worry too much about this. This is just the biology and chemistry side of things. I just thought I'd put a wee bit in so that you understand a bit more about the importance of why I'm teaching you this. And these fatty acids produce mucus that lines your gut and protects it. So we need that mucus to line especially our small intestine, to look after those. Remember we spoke about the villi, to look after the health of them. So we need to make sure that we are making these fatty acids, and that the bacteria in your gut has the food that it needs to produce that. The microbiome, or the bacteria in your gut, interact with these hormones, leptin and ghrelin, which I spoke about before. So remember, an increase of leptin in your blood will decrease your appetite. So that means that when your stomach starts to get full, your body will secrete leptin to tell you that you are full. And ghrelin will increase your appetite. So as soon as your stomach is empty, ghrelin will increase, and it will alert your body and your mind and your brain that you should be looking for food. They help to produce B vitamins, which are important for mental health, energy, clarity, concentration. They make vitamin K, which is involved in blood clotting. So if you cut yourself, or cut yourself shaving, or you have a fall, vitamin K is involved in the blood clotting process. So obviously it's vital for our survival that we have that, and it's made by your gut bacteria. And they interact with your immune system and nervous system, like I said, via the vagus nerve. It's believed via the vagus nerve that runs from your gut to your brain, and it is a completely separate nervous system. So it's incredible. Like, I don't want to go into much more detail than that, but it's important that you know of the connections, so that you know moving forward how important it is to look after your digestive health. I just put this little cartoon in because I thought it was funny. How do you identify a dysfunctional gut? So you might have heard of things like IBS, irritable bowel, inflammatory bowel disease. And I just put this in so that you understand what a dysfunctional gut has been connected to. Dysbiosis and leaky gut is basically what happens when your digestive system is not working as it should do, and there is an abundance of bad bacteria. It's been connected to things like obesity, eczema, asthma, irritable bowel syndrome, autism, autoimmune diseases like MS, celiac, which is an allergic reaction to gluten, psoriasis, which is a skin condition, and inflammatory rheumatoid arthritis. IBD is inflammatory bowel disease like Crohn's, colitis, anxiety, depression, acne, type 2 diabetes, sleep problems, and even cardiovascular disease and some types of cancer as well. So as you can see, having a dysfunctional gut can be very, very serious indeed. How do you know if you have a bit of gut dysfunction? Well, these are just some symptoms. Please don't diagnose yourself off of this, but just some symptoms that you might want to be aware of. Pain, discomfort, stomach cramps, diarrhea, constipation, or alternating between both. So not having irregular bowel movements and not having regular toilet habits, being all over the place, not kind of knowing when you're coming or going with that as a symptom. Bloating, gas, skin conditions, breakouts and acne, bad breath can be caused by bacteria in your mouth. Joint pain is a big one that we often mistake for other things that can be caused by a dysfunctional gut. Inability to concentrate is a big one. Brain fog, not being able to make decisions, finding it difficult to think straight. It's not just you, it could be a problem with your gut. And poor hair and nail quality as well can be a sign. So where may you be going wrong? So if you do have any of these symptoms, where might you be going wrong with your diet, knowing what you already know? So perhaps your vegetable intake is too low. So your overall fibre intake is too low. Your overall food quality is low. Maybe you have a lot of processed foods that can contribute to a dysfunctional gut. You're maybe consuming too much sugar. Your food lacks variety. So if you're eating the same thing over and over and over again every day, your gut bacteria isn't getting the variety that it needs to flourish. Perhaps you're relying too heavily on caffeine. And also antibiotic use, past and present, can also have a massive effect on your gut health. So let's talk about the gut and the immune system. So your gut, like I said before, is the first entry point for foreign objects such as bacteria and pathogens. Obviously, you're not always in control of that. Obviously, some of these are airborne, and if you need to take personal hygiene into account here as well. Aside from nutrients comes pathogens, and these obviously enter through your mouth as well. So your gut is your first line of defence with the outside world, and you're in full control of what goes in there most of the time. If you have an inflamed gut, then your immune system is going to be on red alert as well. So if you address the health of your gut and reduce the amount of, you can actually reduce the amount of infections that you get, like coughs and colds, and build immunity through building a really, really healthy microbiome. And addressing the health of your gut can also help to improve your mood and your sleep as well. So it cannot be underestimated here, the power of the gut. The power of the gut. I don't know if you can hear mine there, but my stomach's rumbling. So here are some first steps that you can take to improve the health of your gut. Right, there's loads and loads of stuff you can do to improve the health of your gut, but here are just some basic steps that you can start to take. Remove all processed foods. All processed foods. Increase the amount and variety of plants in your diet. So if you think back to week 3, we spoke about the importance of micronutrients and the importance of a variety of colours and types of plants. So fruit, vegetables and herbs. Aim for between 10 and 12 portions a day. I know that sounds a lot, but it's highly doable. And if you look at that rainbow of colours there, get as much variety in your week as you possibly can. Increase the amount of pre and probiotic foods in your diet. So if you have a look at the workbooks, the worksheets that come with this, I've given you them as a sort of reference guide to pre and probiotic foods. Again, I wouldn't recommend that you completely transform your diet just based on these food lists. Please make sure you seek help first. Consider increasing your anti-inflammatory foods and herbs. Again, I'll put that in the drop box for you. Managing your stress levels as best you can. We spoke about stress already. It has a massive effect on your gut. Remember, the connection between your gut and your brain is huge. So if you put some of these steps into place when we spoke about managing stress, just taking some time out and thinking about how you react to stress, that's going to have a very positive effect on your gut as well. Reduce the sugar and caffeine in your diet, pretty straightforward. We should already have been doing this anyway. And make sure you stay well hydrated. So here are just some future considerations with professional support. So having someone to actually guide you through this. I would never give you an elimination diet or anything like that as part of a group course. This is very, very specific to the person. So something like an elimination diet may be required. A type of elimination diet is called low FODMAP, which stands for fermentable oligosaccharides, and then the rest, which you don't need to know. And it's a restriction diet with retesting of foods. Again, not something you would want to be doing on your own. A rotation diet to find out if certain types of foods or families of foods affect your gut. Again, something that you would want to seek professional help for. And then you can also think about supplements for gut health, so things like probiotics, glutamine, vitamin C and zinc. Again, please don't go out and do this on your own. So more resources on this. I'm going to give you a list of a couple of books, so links to more reading if you're interested. There are a couple of books that are really, really good that can explain it in a lot more detail than I can if you're interested. Your pre and probiotic food lists in the Dropbox along with the anti-inflammatory food list, and links to videos that you might want to watch as well. I will be updating this section as new research comes out and anything that I think you'll find interesting. But if you have any questions, you know where to find me. I hope you've enjoyed this one today, and I'll catch you in the Facebook group for a discussion.